Good afternoon, everyone. We are one Asian short. Um,
They are
work will
short.
work will do that for you. Yeah, he got to
Mhm.
make that Arab money.
Yeah.
You got to
Um,
get the cheddar.
got to get that cheddar, that cheese. But he'll be back on Friday. I'm hoping. Um, let me get Facebook people up in here because you know how they get mad if I don't include them.
Mm-hmm.
There, done. Anyhow, um, the conservative world is going through some shakeup, to say the least,
Tumultuous
and
times.
we got two of the biggest bigwigs going at it, fighting each other. So we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
dive into the fight and laugh at both sides because it's quite interesting to see. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to talk about it. Tea is ready, although Jay's not here to sip it. So, um, Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson,
Mm-hmm.
the speed reader versus the super sleuth. Ain't that something? I would have never thought I'd see a day between when I see Big Ben and good old Tucky Tuck fighting.
Well, it kind of started with that Ben and Candace Owens beef.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's
you
what
you,
really.
you kind of saw this, kind of saw Ben kind of steering. Not saying that he isn't a libertarian. He just started to show where his allegiance lies
Yeah.
because he immediately attacks people on the right that don't agree with his stance or the stance when it comes to Israel.
He was also a very big Governor Florida person. So like they had already hitched their ride to the Ron man in the election. So it's kind of interesting to see this kind of downward spiral of Ben because I think like you said, it really started with the attack on October 7th, and then the way that he came after Candace for basically saying the exact same thing that Tucker has said shows exactly how unnerved he is by the whole thing. Like he lost all composure he usually has, completely gone. Just like this is the one issue he will just absolutely lose his stuff and go absolutely emotional for. The whole facts don't care about your feelings, but he's steering really hard into the feelings aspect of this whole situation.
It's just a little bit of feeling. Just a
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna go do for a second.
Yes, just smidgen.
Just tiny bit of fearing. Just fearing.
Mhm.
What did Tucker say? Let's hear.
So this is he was on with Sagar Anjetti with Breaking Points, and this is the interview. I watched this video interview. Good interview. This is the segment of that interview that actually set Tucker off, is what he's saying.
So I don't really care, but I did think it showed like the level of not just corruption, which I knew, but of like emotional instability and crazy. I mean, there are people, and I stopped reading any of it, but there are people on the right who have spent the last 2 months every single day focused on a conflict in a foreign country as our own country becomes dangerously unstable on the brink of financial collapse with tens of millions of people who shouldn't be here in the country. We don't know their identities or the purpose of their being here. Like stuff that's could destroy the country for real and make it impossible for my kids to live here. They've said nothing about that, and they're focused with laser intensity on foreign conflicts. And I'm like, at some point, I've got 4 kids. If I'm so caught up in the problems of my neighbor's children and completely ignoring my own children as they get addicted to drugs and kill themselves, I'm not against helping my neighbor's kids, but clearly I don't love my kids. I mean, that's the only logical conclusion, and they don't care about the country at all. And that's kind of their prerogative, but I do, because I have no choice, because I'm from here, my family's been here hundreds of years, I plan to stay here. Like, I'm shocked by how little they care about the country, and including the person you mentioned. And I can't imagine how someone like that could get an audience of people who claim to care about America, because he doesn't, obviously. Right?
Right. Well, I mean, Tucker, we've seen it too on free speech. I mean, people who become multimillionaires, who've made entire careers, who've literally became famous, on this very reason. I know you've spoken about this previously, but it's very important to our audience as well. Is that standing up for free speech rights of people you disagree with is probably the most important exercise, and we've seen some of that come for American citizens on Palestine. How do you work through this too when we're both under such immense pressure, even social pressure of like, how could you support this? Take maybe the context of the university presidents. We've got billionaires like Bill Ackman, I'm curious what you make of this. My assessment is they're upset that they're not included as marginalized within the DEI regime. They claim to be against.
They're not marginalized enough. Anyway, that is basically what set him off, was the fact that he mentioned, like Candace did, the fentanyl crisis and how they care more about people being killed everywhere else except in America, that we're not doing enough to protect our own interests in our own families first, which is the whole idea of America First and the MAGA idea, is that we were supposed to be taking care of our own house before we take care of our neighbor's house, right? So this is where he comes in and is just absolutely insane about it. Like, just goes off the end.
And the problem, one of the things that we've done on this podcast many times is we've always said it's not that we don't have empathy for things going on in these other countries, but we always say we care about where we live because we have to live here and we have to deal with all this stuff. And like Coy said, or Tucker said, if you're so focused on countries way across the water that most Americans have never been to, most Americans can't even point to you on a map. Not all, some couldn't even point to you where Gaza Strip is on a map. Couldn't even point to you where the West Bank was on a map.
Yep.
They're so focused on places they've never been. They don't understand that they forget that what's going on here is worse because we have to live through it.
Yep.
This is his reaction to the segment we just saw.
He looks so edgy with his
Your
leather
reaction to
jacket
that?
on.
I mean, a bit of an astonishing statement there from Tucker. I would never doubt his love for the country, even though he and I disagree wildly about a number of topics. First of all, he attributes to me a bunch of things that simply are not true. If anybody who's listened to my show, which has a few listeners, over the course of the last several months, you'll see that I talk about all the issues that he mentions there, including the border issue, all the time. If you watch my show, he actually attributes to me, I believe in that interview, the view that, for example, the United States has some sort of duty to import Palestinians from Gaza. I've overtly opposed that because it's ridiculous, silly, and would be awful for the United States of America. So he just attributes to me a bunch of views I don't hold and then proceeds to say that I don't care about the country. Yeah, obviously that's silly and that's untrue. I think it's part and parcel of something that Tucker has had a habit of doing recently, which is we disagree, therefore you don't care about the people that I care about, you don't care about the country. As for the notion, by the way, that his people have been here for hundreds of years, all four of my grandparents on both sides been here since the early 1900s. So over a century, my family has been here on both sides of the aisle. I also have no intention of moving. So, I don't know what more there is to say about that other than it's an absurd accusation. It's unfortunate. I certainly don't feel that way about Tucker as much as I disagree with Tucker, as we said, on a wide variety of issues.
I like how he goes.
Can we play that back and slow it down?
I want to talk about the fact that we have another clip of him actually on his show talking about Tucker and how this is like a 4-minute rant too. Like it's not.
We're not listening to 4 minutes.
But I'm just saying, like you'll get the idea of what like this. That's how he's acting with Megyn Kelly. But that's not how he's acting on his own show.
Of course, that's been for you.
Face for you.
And Tucker, by the way, then continued along these lines. He did an interview with Vivek Ramaswamy, and he likened what just happened in Israel, the kidnapping of women and their rape. I mean, he's showing video of this happening, like as he's talking about this. He compared that to drug overdose deaths in the United States. Now, I believe we should fully care about the 100,000 drug overdose deaths that happen in the United States. These are two completely different issues. To go this far afield to link the issues, the only reason you're doing this is because you wish to downplay the atrocity that just happened in Israel.
Okay, pause.
You're not upplaying the atrocity of what's
no, because one is of a higher value system because one directly affects him.
Yep.
There is a massive difference between us looking at, because I don't see Ben doing any of this outrage over children being attacked by African warlords. They're being genocided all day long in Africa, but I don't see you raising a stink over it, probably because you don't like Negroes.
Yeah.
Is that what we're supposed to assume, Ben? That you are racist, that you hate black people, so you just don't talk about the atrocities happening in Africa? I didn't hear you talk about Rwanda. You don't talk about Idi Amin, the history there. You don't talk about anything that happens with black people in Africa. But we don't talk about that because it doesn't directly affect us. We talk about things that happen in Chicago, in Baltimore, in Oakland. So yes, there is a direct correlation to us spending and wasting time talking about what's happening in Israel when they should be taking care of their own, and we should be taking care of ours because we have to take care of the affairs of the home first before we step out. I don't see how that doesn't make any sense to you, Ben. But then I do know why it doesn't make sense to you, because you're not doing it yourself. So
yeah, and another thing with his statement about Israel and trying to correlate between the fentanyl and all this other stuff. And he's probably alluding to, like what you said, genocide, right? The genocide of the Israeli people. But isn't people bringing drugs that are killing American peoples? Isn't it a form of a genocide?
400,000.
Yeah, it's a genocide. We are killing people without calling it a genocide through allowing these illegal things to come across the borders, and it's not just drugs, it's all types of ways you can tie genocide to it. So if he wants to use the term genocide, you care more about the genocide of people in a foreign country that's thousands of miles away than you care about the genocide of your own people in this country. You can use your platform to change a lot in this country, but you'd rather change things in a country that you're probably not going to go over there and take arms to help fight the fight.
Right.
Because
armchair quarterback.
Here's the other thing. He mentions the atrocities that they're committing, that they committed on October 7th. It's like that's happening across the border all the damn time as well. Like our southern border, that is happening all the time, where people are being kidnapped and they're being trafficked and they're being raped and murdered. And all of this has to do with the same topic we're talking about, which is fentanyl, which is coming across the border as well, along with all the people. So all of these problems are interwoven into one. Man, do you remember the story? It was last year, a couple months ago, where a kid in New York died because of an overdose of fentanyl in a daycare. Like, I don't understand how that is least important in your prerogative of like important things, that a kid died of an overdose of fentanyl in a daycare.
And with Ben, and we always talking about how the left always puts us in boxes and thinks we're a monolith, right? If someone on the right agrees with it, I agree with it. I stand. That's the problem he has, because he's thinking like a leftist. Just because he stands for something doesn't mean I have to stand for it. I want to stand for this issue. Doesn't mean I don't recognize this issue. Doesn't mean I don't know what's going on. And doesn't mean I want anything bad to happen to people. But that's at the bottom of my totem pole, Yeah. And I think he thinks what he considers important, which is a world thing, which is all over the news, everyone on the right should think it's equally important, because he has stake in it being Jewish. He's like, I have stake in it, it's affecting my people, so you should stand with me if you stand for the right. So he has a problem with Tucker shifting it, saying, no, we're American, and I stand with the American people and the American problems. That's his issue. Same with Candace, Yeah.
And there was a comment that mentioned is like a demand. If there was no demand, there'd be no supply. It's like there's always going to be a black market regardless of what you do. But here's also the thing, is like there wouldn't be a demand for war if there wasn't genocidal maniacs on both sides of Israel and Hamas. Because they both want the same thing. They just don't want each other in the same space. Like we can call it for what it is. They are both genocidal maniacs. They don't want each other in the same space. You have Israeli ministers calling for the removal of Gazans as much as they possibly can. They have leveled that place to the ground. Yeah, what they did on October 7th was horrible, and I think they've more than justified what they've done in the beginning, but what they've done now is on par with what they were trying to do, the Hamas wants to do to them. So two wrongs don't make a right. I get that, but it's not our fight. It's not our problem. We have tons of problems in the United States to deal with. That's what Tucker has been saying. It is not about the fentanyl. It's not about the border. It's about protecting American interests. Israel is not Americans' interests. It's just not. That's not our fight.
even if you want to back Israel, feel free to back Israel. If you want to back Palestine, back Palestine. But
Yep.
don't expect my dollars to go to your backing of whoever you pick, because either way, one of us is going to be mad at the other one for backing one or the other. If America says on the public platform we're behind Israel, fine with that. Be behind
Yeah.
Israel, and you don't send them any of our cash. Be behind Ukraine, don't send them any of our cash. Be behind
Yep.
Russia, don't send any of our cash. That stuff is for us to take care of. I got you in mind. I got your side. I hope you win. That's it. But we got crap here we need to fix. Money is not the end all.
And it goes back to how we always say, they mock us. They do things in our face. They make fun of us. You got to understand the level of craziness these officials have to have. They know that our country is divided with all these conflicts. They have Americans that are pro-Ukraine, pro-Russia, whatever. They're pro something. They're just divided. And for our own country to not stay neutral, to send money to a side where another half of the country is against, that's them mocking us. Our country shouldn't tell the American people whose side they should take. They're the American people's friends and all this. And they try to play these brain games with you to say America picks this side. But you got a whole sect of America that doesn't pick this side. So why even get involved to cause that divide within our country? You see it all every single day in the streets. Just stay out of it. Like we've been saying, stay neutral. We're not picking sides. Hey, whatever you guys do, we'll support you. We'll armchair quarterback it over here. At the end of the day, what happens in Israel, whether they win, they lose, it's not going to do anything for the people here. Keep our money right here.
Yeah, I am tired of the U.S. subsidizing people who hate us.
Yeah.
Like, especially the Europeans, man. Like, look at that. Like, they always put in your face, oh, Americans have shitty healthcare. It's like, yeah, because we're subsidizing every single bit of that. We subsidize your defense and your healthcare because all the people in the United States have to pay for all that experimental treatments that you get to get for even pennies on the dollar when it's done. So thank you. Thank you, Europe. I love that. So we get to defend you, then we get to defend Israel, then we get to defend Taiwan, then we get to defend all of these other places and start wars with people we don't need, and they will never care about the American people enough to actually put money back in the system for them. They don't care about you. They've never cared about you. Ever since Kennedy was assassinated, this country has been run by people who don't like you, period. The administrative state does not like any of you. They like having their positions and being in the background saying we control everything. Nobody knows what's really going on.
I know exactly what's going on. We got a Jew fighting a Jew and fighting a black man like you. The beef he had with Candace was an interesting one too. To where he even told her, if you don't like it, just quit.
Yep.
Hey, it's his business. He's the one in charge of it. So I can see him saying that easily. If I don't want you on my team, I don't want you on my team. If you're not going to play team ball, I can't blame him for that. That's a business move. However, you can't say it's a business move and then tout that your platform is free speech. It's not really free speech if you're going to be touting quit if you don't agree with me. But hey, if your platform is free speech for people I deem okay, then I guess I still can't blame you there either, because at least you're consistent, but that's not what you tout. I know in this instance, it's the same kind of thing going on with him and Tucker. The biggest issue I see Ben as having is this. Ben is a all or nothing kind of guy, and nuance is foreign to him. It simply is just foreign to him, and I think it might be a trait of overly intellectual people.
Yeah. There's nothing more dangerous in the world than a person who believes they're right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ben's always been like this. I mean, for those of us that have been following Ben for years, when he was a really young guy, he always considered himself the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, that's fine.
He always considered himself the smartest guy in the room. You know what I mean? And it shows. It's that I'm more intellectual than these people. And with my intellect, I'm right. They're wrong, and they should agree with me. Yeah. And it's not going the way he thought it was going to go, and it's going to continue. It's going to continue to do this. You're going to get more and more people on the right, these media tycoons, whatever. They're going to start coming out voicing their opinion. They're not anti-Israel. He never said that. He's anti-foreign interference.
Yeah.
like foreign intervention has been Kissinger's fucking thing that we got stuck into for the last 50 years now.
Mhm.
Even after he's dead, he's still ruining the world.
And there's more
It's
than
like-
just his voice.
Right? It's like Kissinger has done more to harm the United States than any terrorist organization could ever have hoped to have done.
He
Like,
does what I
just
can
simple,
to do
it's just
what I
simple as
can.
that, man. Like,
You
This
just
is-
hate the man because you don't understand the man. That's your problem.
it's upsetting that
Let's
this
see
is
what,
where
let's see
we
what
are.
Ben has to say more. Let's have that, Ben. Continue, Ben.
It's happening on America's streets. Those are two different types of atrocities. People who are addicted to
oh,
fentanyl,
good.
sticking needles in their arms and overdosing.
I agree. It's two different types of exactly. So you shouldn't be conflating the two. He isn't either. He's telling us to focus on one opposed to the other, not because of the gravity of it, but the location. For all that intellect you have, you can't figure that out? For all the schooling you have, you couldn't figure that part out? Come on, man. Jeez. Golly.
is a moral blight. It is a moral atrocity and a moral evil for people to kidnap women, rape them, and drag them back to the Gaza border. Those are not the same thing. And Tucker knows that. But this is a cheap way of telling you not to look. Don't look. Stop caring. Because after all, what does it matter? What does it matter? Now, again, I don't know who thinks that that's a sophisticated point of view, especially when nobody is calling for America to go to war with Iran.
Wrong. There is a
Don't know
prominent
about-
senator.
Yeah. Yes, he's very wrong right there.
There are people that have been itching to go to war with Iran since Iraq. Like, it's not a surprise. It's not a new thing. You are being dishonest there, Mr. Shapiro. You know that is not, in fact, true.
He was talking so fast, he didn't think anyone would catch it.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, no, we caught it.
Lindsey Graham has been basically calling for the eradication of Iran. Like, we should nuke them, basically, is what he's been saying over the last few months. If you haven't been paying attention, who is another prominent Republican of people who are just like absolutely batshit insane, who have no kids. Oh, he has no kids, by the way. Did you know that? Lindsey Graham has 0 kids.
Yeah, we know why.
Yeah. So the point is like him saying that there are no people calling for war with Iran is absolutely ridiculous because we know that's not true.
And, you know, back to his point about he was saying there's no comparison to what's happening over there with people getting drugged across the border and raped, right?
Mhm.
I think that's what he said. But that's happening here.
Yeah, that
So you're
happens here
saying
all the
it's
time.
happening here. So you're saying because it's happening over there and you have equity in that country, per se,
Yeah.
that is more important. This is exactly what he's telling us. We know where his allegiance lies. He's saying what's happening to those people with the rape and the kidnapping and everything, that is more important than it happening to our own people here.
Yeah.
That's what he's telling us.
And here's
You
another
guys
question.
know where his allegiance stands, and it's not.
Show
with
me the
America.
difference between New Jalisco and Hamas, other than the fact that one likes making money.
Mhm.
They have the same sort of structure, the same sort of infrastructure. They might have a different ideology. One wants to make a bunch of money, and the other one just wants to kill all the Jews. But they're essentially the same sort of organization. But we treat them entirely differently, which is insane to me. I don't understand that.
It makes sense. It makes sense that I can't understand how he can say what he's saying and not catch what he's saying. Because okay, this is just me. Maybe I might be wrong, but I don't know that he fully understands what he's saying. Because if he did, he wouldn't say it. And like to your point, bro, that we have found countless bracelets of little children
Mhm.
along the border, and we have found traces with items with traces of fentanyl on them, and we have video of the cartel doing exactly what happens in Israel and in Palestine to the children at the border. So it is exactly the same thing, you numbskull Ben Shapiro. I don't care what you say. I don't care how many schools you've been through. That just makes you an educated fool. That's all you sound like. You don't sound intelligent. You don't sound like you know what you're saying. You don't sound like you know anything about foreign policy. Even if you had all the master degrees in foreign policy, what you're saying makes you sound very stupid. Because the correlation is very much the same. You just happen to hate Hamas more than you hate the Mexican cartels. That's all. That's the only difference. But they're doing it exponentially worse. Because the last time I checked, the number of children abused at the border far outweighs what has already happened this year in Gaza. Far outweighs it. We're talking about by tens of thousands, not by hundreds, by tens of thousands. So in either case, whatever way you're looking at it, Tucker's more right than you. You have no ground to stand on with this one, like zero. Just come out and say this. I don't care about the border as much as I care about Israel. Just say that. We would appreciate that level of honesty as opposed to the crap that you're spewing right now just because you have a public audience that's large.
And you know, the thing with him, the way he's coming off, let's say there's some stats that came out off the border, you know, DHS put out some stats and they said they did percentages. The highest percentage of people being kidnapped and dying from fentanyl overdoses are Jewish people. Then you would see Ben come in and say, oh, we got to do something about this, you know? So it's a race or an ethnicity thing for him, you know?
You want to know the dirty secret of that? The majority of those deaths are probably white.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody cares about white people. So it's like, it's whatever. They poisoned themselves. They deserve it sort of situation. When it's really just teenagers experimenting half the time on some of those deaths. They get it. They got peer pressured into high school to try this one thing, and then they tried it and they died. The first shot, the first time. Like, how many people do you know in your lifetime when they were teenagers and were stupid, tried a bunch of things they probably shouldn't have, that would probably be dead now because of it?
I played the fifth.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm saying, nobody's gonna say it out loud, but I know there are people that probably would be dead otherwise. But it's also the point that he makes here. It's like, well, because of how the brutality of what Hamas did to the children. It's like, are we really arguing which is worse? How the children were killed versus how many were killed? Like, this is where we're at in the world. Is like, well, it's not as bad because they were, aborted, or it's not as bad because they were fentanyl poisonings. Oh, they're not as bad because they were, killed systematically for a certain reason. They're all the same. They're all dead. It doesn't matter how they were killed. They're still dead. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing he's being dishonest about and disingenuous about.
Okay.
That upsets me.
How many deaths do you think we've had of fentanyl-related deaths this year alone?
This year or last year?
Yeah, I'm going to take a lucky guess.
Sorry, last year. Last year,
I'm going to say about 200,000.
70,000 deaths.
Okay,
so let's now say 70,000 deaths, and let's take 15,000 of them were people who were given fentanyl against their will, beaten and abused and drug across borders and then left to die. The number is still higher than what happened in Gaza. So in either metric, Mr. Shapiro, you're off.
Yep.
That's right.
No matter what metric you use.
Regardless of how you believe about the Hamas situation, how many Gazans are dead now versus Israelis? It's like, it's the same thing. Dead is dead. It doesn't matter how it happened and when it happened. They're still dead. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, so which is better is like, just because they were brutally murdered in this fashion, and then you're like, well, as long as the kids were bombed systematically throughout the entire Gaza Strip, that's better. That's better. They were just collateral damage. That's fine. It's like, no, that's not. They're still dead. Anyway,
let him continue.
The entire purpose of having an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean is to avoid that. But here is Tucker playing. I don't even know the game he's playing. This is just a dumb game.
But you don't have to look far in the United States for moral outrages also on video. And there's not a city in this country, not just the big cities, but cities of 10,000 people. I was in one yesterday that doesn't have some constellation of drug-addicted young people living outside. We call them the homeless. They're drug addicts. And they're addicted to drugs that were imported across an
What's
open
that have to do
border,
with the price of tea in China? I don't understand.
That's right, because we don't care about the price of tea in China, you numbnut. That's
genocide.
why.
You can call it whatever you want.
Like, how does it not make sense to you? You coin purse holder. Bro, it's because we do not care about the price of tea or rice in China. We don't live there. Focus. Okay, look, you might be part ADHD. I don't know. You might have like an attention deficit, something going on. You Ritalin is what I don't know what your issue is, but you can't seem to follow a damn conversation, bro. We are not living in Israel. We're not living on the Gaza Strip. We live in the United States, and we have way too much problems to be sending our support and money elsewhere. Otherwise, we will end up just like them. We will have the same fight on our hands because the cartels around us are not going to be, oh man, they're going through trouble. We better wait. No, they'll invade. But no.
Let me
Send
tell you
our money
something about.
elsewhere. Go ahead.
Let me tell you something Ben Shapiro would do. Let's say that scenario that you just talked about played out. We send all our money, you know, we start losing our country to the influx of illegal immigration, drugs, everything else. Our country actually goes into kind of like that state like we see in these other countries. Do you think Ben Shapiro is going to stay here, or is he going to use his dual citizenship to get out of here?
He said he gonna stay.
No, I guarantee he would be on the first thing smoking back or to Israel, not back to because he's not from there, but he would head over to Israel using his dual citizenship because I guarantee he has dual citizenship.
I bet he does.
You know, I'm pretty sure he does. So that's where his equity's at. So either way, we always go back to everything as a rich man's trick. He's playing both sides. You know, hey, let's pump up Israel and make sure they're safe. But if America falls, I have an out. A lot of us don't have an out, man. So we care about, like Marlon stated, we care about what's going on here. I don't care what's going on with tea in China. I don't care what boats are off the coast of Iran. I don't care. When it gets here, we'll deal with it. We need to focus, like you said,
because it will get here. It will get here.
It will,
regardless. So we better be ready,
whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
One, but it's the death of over 100,000 Americans a year and the living death of millions.
Well, you can't call
more
it genocide. It's not genocide.
That is genocide.
I don't
I'm
understand.
sorry, people who are addicted.
That's what I was saying. It's like it's because they're white folks, and I don't care.
It's genocide. It's genocide.
I mean, how many people have to die?
Well, and here's the reason with genocide. Everybody say, so, you know, for people that don't understand why it's genocide, the people that bring that stuff across the border, they know exactly what that can do to people. They know. Death is a possibility. So when they sell it to you, they understand that you could possibly die from this. It's genocide because they're selling you something that can kill you. And they don't care.
That's why he backed Fauci. He doesn't see that as genocide either.
Yeah.
Right. He was for the death of Americans long before anything. See, he's part of he's Hamas. He is exactly the thing that he talked about not wanting to be.
Here. Are you going to go Kanye on him?
Okay, let me show you something. Let me show you Philadelphia real quick, okay?
You sure that's not Mexico?
Or is that the West Bank? Is it Israel? Where is that? Palestine?
Yeah, right. I think Marlon froze.
What time is it? Yeah, it's that time.
It's that time. So apparently Marlon's internet goes out exactly the same time every single day at this exact time. And I think it's because they're doing an update on the FBI truck.
Oh, yeah. I think there was one driving by my house yesterday. It was a black SUV, no lie. It kept driving back and forth. And I came out to my truck because I was going to go get something to eat. And this black SUV had already turned around, came back, and was like going back and forth in the neighborhood. I was like, I see you, FBI. I see.
That's Philly. This is Philly.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Now going to that. Now, if you look at all these countries that we send our money to, what do you think these countries that we're sending millions of dollars to? A lot of them put that money, the good ones, put their money towards what? Infrastructure, right? So you would see places like Ukraine, who's supposed to be in a war right now, and they're walking around downtown living a good life. Then you look at Philly, our own country. Yeah. All the money we send over there, you can put that money into our own community. But people like Ben Warhawk, he's a Warhawk. Yeah, he'd rather for all our money to go help out his people because he doesn't consider American people his true people. He's Jewish. Understand that. And not all, but the ones like this, he knows where his allegiance lies.
So the
The media's obvious desire to drive a wedge between Trump and Fauci is idiotic and dangerous. No matter how much you hate Trump, if you like the country, you should be rooting for Trump to listen to Fauci rather than trying to foster division.
Now,
Wrong.
back to his allegiance.
Hmm.
Now, I want people to understand that we're in no way, shape, or form anti anything Jewish. We're just stating the obvious here. What is Fauci? What is he?
Italian?
El
No.
Jew.
He's a Jewish man, right?
Oh, is he? I
And-
didn't know.
Oh yeah, he's a Jesuit. You know, and the rumor is that Ben Shapiro might be a Jesuit too. So this is, you know, you got to understand why he's playing both sides. He's not who he says he is, and we've said this before on other podcasts. We called him out. We're like, there's something about him. He's not who he says he is. He can get up there and talk all fast, and I mean, this podcast, I'll stop picture said I don't even know who these guys are. But let me tell you something. But
There was this one black guy. Sound like he's from a different country. I bet he's from Africa.
you want to talk about my allegiance?
It's just insane. Like, have you seen all of the Trank videos of all these people with like looking like actual zombies, not just like figurative zombies, like literal zombies with like drugged out, like kind of hunched over in this, and then have sores all over their face and arms. It's absolutely disgusting. Like, and the funny thing is, who also remembers another nifty little thing when Gavin Newsom cleaned up all the homeless in California because Xi Jinping was coming to town.
So again, that goes back to them mocking us. He showed us right there. He showed us that I can clean up my city
Like
one
that.
day.
Mhm.
We
like
could clean
that.
it up.
We can clean it up just like that. But they
But
don't.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, they're not. They don't care. They don't care, man.
It's just the point. It's like, so him to say that this isn't an issue, this isn't a United States issue that's on the same level. It's like, it is. It's destroying everything in society right now. Like, we're destroying cities because of this. And the people that are making money off of it are worse, in my opinion, than some ideological zealot Islamist in the Middle East. Because they know they're doing bad, but they don't care because they're doing it for profit.
For profit.
So it's the same thing with the pharmaceutical companies. I know they know what they're doing is wrong, but they're doing it for profit. They are the same sort of people. So there's no difference between drug cartels and big pharma, in my opinion, because they know their products kill people, but they still produce it anyway.
Go Fauci.
Yeah, go Fauci.
Hey, Fauci.
Yay, Fauci.
Did
People
to
are
drugs and
outraged
living
by what happened
outside?
in Israel. And again, I want to add my voice to that because I'm a human being. But
Oh, sure you do.
The
You sound very
scale of
outraged.
The outrage among Republican presidential candidates was so much more intense. One of them took to a bullhorn and started yelling about it. I get it, but no one would think to do that about the 100,000 American young people murdered every year. And they
Because who are
murdered.
you yelling at? Who are you yelling at? First of all, people are on bullhorns yelling about drug overdoses and the open border all the time. All the time. What is he even talking about? What he's attempting to do is minimize what happened in Israel. He's not attempting to maximize what happened in the United States. He's attempting to minimize, as though America can't walk and chew gum, morally speaking, at the same time, which is absurd. And those two things are nothing alike. I'm sorry, that is not alike. It is not alike for drug smugglers to smuggle drugs over the border, which someone then takes and shoves into their arm, and then they die of an overdose. That is not the same thing. I promise you, it is not the same thing as a terrorist breaking into your home and murdering your children in their beds in front of you.
Let me explain something to you, Ben. Let me explain something to you, Ben. You do realize that people that do fentanyl lose their minds, right? Okay, so let me break something down for you. The person that chooses to do fentanyl is doing it and they have access to it. The same way Hamas has access to guns that the U.S. promoted and gave to them through Iran, that you are fine with, by the way. So it's just the same thing. To make your little correlation, I know you're a little bit slow. You seem smart, but I'm gonna show how stupid you really are. Consider fentanyl arms, you tool. The fentanyl is just like weaponry. They gave Hamas weaponry, and people gave people fentanyl.
Yeah.
They both chose to use both weapons and fentanyl. They use the weapons to kill other people, and fentanyl makes them erratic and they kill people. One is happening at an exponentially higher rate than the other. There are over 100,000 deaths here, a couple of thousand over there. So yes, morally, there should be more outrage here. But you
Mhm.
don't have that outrage because you don't see
Yeah.
it that way, because your mind is built around money.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty that simple. I don't know how that's difficult. I do know why that's difficult for you. I do understand why that's difficult for you, though.
Here's a couple more things for that. Where does the precursor products come from to make fentanyl? Anybody have a guess? Bueller? Anyone? Oh, wait, that is China. It comes from Chinese corporations who sell it to the Mexican drug cartels, who then make the fentanyl, who then ship it to the US. So we have a adversary state who says that we're not against each other. Well, we absolutely are in a Cold War with China. Don't get it wrong. We are. China is sending a product knowingly that the drug cartels are going to make it into a bio weapon or a chemical weapon to send it to the United States to kill U.S. citizens, because they know that's what it does. That drug does nothing but kill. You don't actually get anything out of it. It's more likely to kill you than give you a high. So it is a weapon that is being released on the streets of the U.S. It is a national security problem for the U.S. to have an open border with thousands and thousands of people, millions of people coming across the border last year, and to have an unrestrained terrorist organization who has military arms, who, by the way, Obama lost in Fast and Furious down in the Mexican border. Remember that fiasco on that little tangent there?
Mhm.
So we have these groups of individuals who have military arms that they sold them, being provided chemical weapons from the Chinese who are killing Americans. So it is the same thing.
Yeah, and he brought up terrorism, right? He said you have terrorists going in people's homes, kidnapping people, and all this. Here's the definition of terrorism: the unlawful use of violence or threats to intimidate or coerce a civilian population or government with the goal of furthering political, social, and ideological objectives.
Yeah.
So both of those things, with them coming across the border with drugs, and the Hamas terrorists can be deemed a form of terrorism. It's just
Period.
not in the way he
Yeah.
sees. It's not the war way. There's different forms of terrorism, and them bringing drugs across,
It's a big
selling
one.
it to American people, people dying, overdosing, is a form of social terrorism.
Yep.
Yep.
Boom.
We also have to look at the fact, how does the cartels keep their power?
Through terrorism.
Through terrorism. They
The
literally do that.
definition,
Like
plain as day.
the Mexican government is beholden to the cartels because they pull people out of their homes and kill them and rape them in the same exact way. Like it is not any different. They are the same sort of organization with the same means and methods.
And
Everything
how
he
that's
said,
exactly,
every-
Destro. It is government funded too.
oh
Yeah,
yes,
all of
everything
it
he
is.
said everything he said Hamas is doing, like we said, these
The
cartels are doing the same exact thing. It's the same. It's no different. They're kidnapping, they're raping, they're giving
Yeah.
people drugs, they're killing people, with guns. They're doing all the same stuff. If you talk, come and hunt you down. It's all terrorism. It's
And they're
just
doing-
not his version of terrorism, because he knows where his allegiance lies.
Lie.
Yeah. And here's a scary thing. People don't really realize this, but have you noticed there's barely been any actual gang like activity, like actual organized gangs in cities for a long time now? You want to know the reason why?
Because cartels.
Because the cartels took over
Pushed
all the
them out.
street gangs.
Mm-hmm.
The cartels run the street gangs now. You cannot find one that isn't linked to the cartels now. So they have an entire network, a terrorist network throughout the entire country that they control. But it's not the same thing. Obviously, it's not the same thing because they don't want to kill us all. I mean, China does, so they're doing that.
Not that they started Hamas. Hamas came about because of what was going on between Israel and Palestine. The people that really started Hamas was Iran. Okay, so make sure you get things going. It's not that Israel did it. They needed someone to point. You need someone to point the finger and say, "That's the bad guy."
Okay, so
That's
here's a little lowdown. So what happened is they propped up Hamas because they didn't want the Palestinian Authority to take over. So they needed a counter group to keep the Palestinian Authority in check, and that's what happened. Same thing with a certain person who in the 80s was defending against the Soviets, who we propped up to to attack the Soviets. So like they're getting their same sort of situation. So no wonder they had their own 9/11 is because they were doing the same exact thing we did with bin Laden, and they just got that thing that came around and bit them in the ass because they shouldn't have been doing it in the first place.
That's how it works. But in either case, what you're going to see Ben continue to do is pander to the people that pay him. And I don't care whether that be Jewish or otherwise. I'm pandering to the people that pay him, and continue to act as though he's a conservative. But what he is a neocon. That's not up for debate. Ben Shapiro is a neocon. He is not a conservative. He runs in conservative circles because it's easy for him to mask and hide there. He can hide his intellectuality there. He could not get away with this being on the left because the left are complete dummies. He can do more damage to the whole structure on the right side than he can on the left, because let's just be honest, there are no smart ones on the left. They're not. I don't care what you tell me. To be on the left, you have to be a dummy. You have to be stupid. Ben knows enough to be dangerous enough to not hang out with the left.
Yeah.
But he's dangerous because now he's on the right, being exactly like the left in ideology, but the right in intelligence. He's the worst kind of person.
So
He's
to answer your question, what is a neocon? A neocon is Bush and Cheney. That's a neocon for you. Starting endless wars for no other reason than to line the pockets of the industrial complex.
That's right.
That's a neocon for
That's
you.
a perfect face to pause right there of him.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's. That face and what you think you can get from it is exactly who Ben is.
Yeah.
You know who's been calling him out for forever now is Mark Dice. Mark Dice has been on his behind for a long time. If you haven't followed Mark Dice, go follow Mark Dice.
He had some good stuff.
He's one of the real ones. Okay,
Yeah.
like he don't care about nobody.
He's one of the OG triple OGs. He is like an OG.
He's like the OG conspiracy theory dude.
It sucks because like up until this point, I stopped listening to Ben Shapiro once the thing with Candace happened. Like I was enjoying the show. Like I disagree with some of his takes, which I do with a lot of people. I mean, I watched Jimmy Dore, for example. I don't agree with all the things he is, but he's anti-war, right? And that's something I agree with him on. It's like non-intervention, anti-war, but he's a bit of a lefty. But still, like once the thing with Candace Owens happened, I was done. I was like, dude, you showed where you put your faith in. You are not American first at all. You're not even anti-war at that. Which I thought I didn't think you were, but yeah, you're totally a neocon. Like,
It's crazy. So Saturday, guys, I'll give you the preview now, since we know better what we can do. There is a certain event happening on Saturday in Iowa, and there's a certain individual that'll be in Iowa that has some orange skin and all that stuff, and we're going to hopefully be able to stream that event to our YouTube page, compliments of Mr. Bro here, who is going to that event. So if you are interested in listening to the event that's on Saturday for Mr. Orange Man Bad, we will be streaming it here live. Savage Patriots. What time is it? It's probably around 6 o'clock Eastern is what we were saying.
Yeah, to be 4 Central. That's when the actual event starts.
So six.
Depending on when he comes on, I don't know.
Either way, we'll probably try to go live between 6 and 9.
Yeah, and I'll keep you updated as it's going. You know, like I said before, I'm gonna keep you updated, and I'll let you know timelines. Like, okay, it's gonna start at this time, and I'll know all of that.
Right.
By the time
that's gonna happen Saturday. We'll still have a show Friday, but the Saturday we'll stream it to Rumble in case YouTube shuts it down. So it'll be in both locations, Rumble and on YouTube, possibly on Facebook too. But you know how they are with that guy. They don't like having him around. So they may or may not allow the stream to continue on Facebook and on YouTube, but it will definitely be on Rumble too. So don't stress over that.
And the beauty about this, there will be no cuts, no mainstream media, anything.
Nope.
Get involved, cutting, muting what he says. I'm going to do my best to get every single thing that comes out of his mouth, as long as I can, technology and everything else. But it will go down. So make sure you guys are there. Boots on the ground. This is Savage Patriots, boots on the ground. Jan 6, Trump. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the way it's going to be. So look out for that on Saturday, and we will be, doing that for you guys. So don't run too far away from stuff. We will be there on Friday.
Righteous.
On Saturday, but Friday we will be back, of course, and hopefully Jay Lee
Mhm.
will be with us too. And maybe by then the list will actually drop. We do have a set of names, but I'm leery about how to lay out. It looks too untrue.
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to put that out there as though we have it until we have like
The list
documented,
may eventually
listed
come
out names. So when we do get that, we'll bring it up to you. So
Yep.
in either case, make sure you guys go check out our merch, get the stuff, get it going, start sharing. And our video from Monday went absolutely bat crazy, which was good. It hit almost 2K already, which is really good. You can do the same thing for this one. That'd be amazing. So
Amazing.
we are starting to move off this year on a much better foot than last year, but that happens with growth. So, but thank you for all of you who put your shoulders to the wheel and try to get our content out there and share it everywhere. Thank you for all that you're doing. In the meantime, in between time, don't forget that Too Strong will be live at 5 or 8:30 Eastern tonight, and we will be having Michelle Loud on to talk about the TD Jakes situation with her kid, and it's gonna be crazy. So join in that. If you're not familiar with Michelle's story, you might want to get familiar with Michelle's story and her excursions with TD Jakes' daughter Cora. So go take a look at that, and we'll talk about that on Too Strong. And we'll see you guys back here on Savage Patriots at 6:30 Eastern on Friday. Don't forget to like, comment. You got something else to say, sir?
Yeah, we're gonna do the not Savage Patriots, the Hooch tomorrow. Same time as always, at 6 Central, so 7 Eastern time.
Perfect. And we'll see you guys here on Friday on the Savage Patriots. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. We out of here. Peace.